Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time we're going to be looking at Warren Buffett's portfolio.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah, we've got an article here that's going to give us some insights into a couple of his stock picks, and one of them might surprise you.
Oh, that's always interesting to see what that legendary investor is up to, especially when he makes moves that seem kind of contradictory.
Right, like with Bank of America?
Yeah, exactly.
So the article highlights that Bank of America had a really decent quarter. They exceeded analyst expectations, like revenue and profit both went up. But Buffett has been selling off a pretty big chunk of his shares.
Just what's going on there?
Yeah, what's the deal?
Well, first you got to think about the sheer size of Berkshire Hathaway's stake in Bank of America.
Oh, yeah, it was massive.
It was enormous. So it's totally possible that Buffett's just rebalancing.
Okay, makes sense.
You know, trimming down a bit to diversify into other things. Got to have that balanced portfolio.
Right, risk management.
Right.
So the article suggests, though, that maybe this sell-off is like a good opportunity for other investors.
Oh, how so?
Well, they say that Bank of America might be undervalued right now, especially because they're growing in these really profitable areas like investment banking.
Ah, yeah, investment banking. That's a high profit margin sector.
Right, and it seems like they're really expanding their presence there.
That could be why the article is saying it's undervalued.
Yeah.
The market maybe hasn't fully caught up to that growth potential.
So maybe Buffett's not like losing faith in Bank of America.
Right.
He's just making strategic moves.
Yeah. Yeah, just adjusting his strategy.
And then other investors can benefit, like, oh, let's snap up BAC at a bargain price.
Right, if you're willing to take the risk.
Exactly. It all comes back to your risk tolerance.
This is where you got to go beyond the headlines and really look at the fundamentals yourself, you know? Is Bank of America actually in a good spot for continued growth in that sector? Are there any specific challenges or risks to investment banking that might affect their performance? Those are the kinds of questions you have to answer.
It just goes to show that even though Buffett's a brilliant investor,
Oh, absolutely.
we shouldn't just blindly follow everything he does.
Yeah, you got to think for yourself.
So Bank of America, that's maybe one for the risk takers out there.
Okay.
But let's switch gears and look at a stock that Buffett seems much more comfortable with, Procter Gamble.
Oh, yeah. P&G about as stable as they come.
Right, the epitome of buy and hold company.
Mm-hmm.
You just invest for the long haul and enjoy those dividends, slow but reliable growth.
That's the appeal for a lot of investors, that stability, that consistency.
And those dividends, they're a dividend king. Did you know that?
Oh, yeah, that's impressive.
68 years in a row of dividend increases. It's longer than Social Security's been around.
Wow, longer than Social Security.
Yeah, pretty amazing track record.
That's the kind of thing that draws people to a stock like that, just that rock-solid dependability.
Yeah, it's like that safety net in your portfolio.
Yeah.
But the article does mention that P&G has seen a little bit of a dip in sales recently.
What's causing that?
They're blaming it on inflation. People are maybe choosing cheaper alternatives instead of their premium brands.
Yeah, it makes sense with the way the economy's been.
Right. But there is a little bit of hope.
Oh.
The article says that inflation seems to be cooling down,
Uh-huh.
and P&G is actually projecting strong growth for next year.
Well, that's encouraging.
So maybe this dip is just temporary.
Just a blip.
Yeah, and if it is now, might be a good time to buy in, especially if you're a long-term investor who like those steady dividends.
Right. Slow and steady wins the race.
It all depends on whether you believe in those P&G brands.
Yeah. Do you think they can adapt, keep up with changing consumer trends and all that?
These are all good things to think about. But before we get too deep into P&G, there's another stock in Buffett's portfolio we got to talk about.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
And this one, well, it might surprise you.
Oh, really? Let's hear it.
You ready for this?
Lay it on me.
So Buffett's been steadily increasing his stake in Occidental Petroleum?
Oil.
Oil, of all things.
That's a curveball. I would not have expected that.
I know, right?
Huh.
Especially with all his interest in renewable energy.
Yeah, you'd think he'd be moving away from that sector, not towards it.
But maybe it's not as contradictory as it seems.
Oh, how so?
The article says that Occidental is actually really invested in carbon capture technology.
Oh, so they're trying to reduce emissions?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's like he's hedging his bets, you know?
Makes sense, covering all his bases.
Investing in both traditional energy and the future of clean energy.
It's a smart move when you consider how unpredictable oil prices can be.
Exactly. And Occidental, as a major oil producer, they benefit directly from these high prices.
So it's a classic value play.
Right. You invest in a company that's making a lot of money in a market that's doing well.
Just in case anyone's not familiar with the term value play, means you're basically finding a company that the market thinks is worth less than it actually is.
Right. You're betting that eventually the market will catch up, the price will go up.
Exactly.
So Buffett seems to see value in Occidental, both in what they're doing now and their potential future in carbon capture.
It's like he's thinking way ahead, anticipating how the energy landscape is going to change.
And the article even suggests that Occidental could become part of Berkshire Hathaway someday.
Whoa, really an acquisition?
Yeah, Buffett's got a big stake in them, and he's got a history of buying out companies that he believes in.
That would be a major move. It would really cement his presence in the energy sector.
Right, but it makes you think, what's his long-term vision for Berkshire Hathaway? Is he betting on a future where oil and carbon capture exist together?
It's a fascinating question. It really challenges our usual understanding of Buffett's investment style.
Yeah.
It shows that even the most experienced investors can surprise us.
Yeah, and that there's always more to learn.
Always learning.
It also makes you think about those categories of investors, value-oriented versus growth-focused.
Right.
Buffett seems to be blurring those lines. He's showing that you can find value in unexpected places and adapt as the market changes.
This Occidental investment is a perfect example of that adaptability.
Yeah.
It's not just about oil. It's about carbon capture, strategic acquisitions, and potentially a long-term bet on the future of energy.
Right. It's a reminder that we have to dig deeper and understand the details of a company's business before we make any investment decisions.
Absolutely.
It's like peeling back the layers of an onion.
You never know what you're going to find.
So we've covered 3 pretty interesting stocks from Buffett's portfolio today, each one giving us a little peek into his investment approach.
Yeah. Each one tells a different story.
Bank of America, with its potential for growth, Procter & Gamble, that steady dividend machine, and then this wild card Occidental Petroleum.
And each stock represents a different philosophy, a different way of navigating the market.
It's like choosing your own adventure in the world of investing.
Exactly. Do you want stability in dividends? Are you looking for undervalued companies with growth potential? Or are you interested in companies that are adapting to a changing world, even if it means going into uncharted territory?
So many paths to choose from, but before we wrap up our deep dive into Buffett's world, we want to leave you with something to think about.
Okay, hit me with it.
Imagine you had the chance to build your own mini version of Warren Buffett's portfolio. Would you include this mix of seemingly contradictory stocks?
That's a really interesting question. Forces you to think about your own investment philosophy.
Are you in it for the quick wins, or are you playing the long game, building wealth slowly over time?
Yeah. What's your time horizon?
And how do you feel about volatility? Does the idea of a roller coaster market make you nervous?
Some people thrive on that excitement. Others prefer a smoother ride.
And maybe the most important question of all, how willing are you to challenge your own assumptions about where value can be found?
Because Buffett shows us that sometimes the best opportunities are hiding in plain sight, just waiting for us to dig a little deeper.
It's a reminder that investing isn't always black and white.
There's a lot of gray area.
Yeah, there's nuance, there's risk, and there's always something new to learn.
Absolutely.
That's what keeps things interesting. So as you continue on your investment journey, remember to stay curious, do your research, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Great advice.
Who knows, maybe you'll discover your own hidden gem, a stock that even Warren Buffett would be impressed by.
I like that. Keep an eye out for those hidden gems.
Until next time, happy investing.
Happy investing, everyone.
Okay, so let's talk about this mystery stock. The article says that Buffett's been quietly increasing his stake in
Let's hear it.
Occidental Petroleum.
Oil.
Oil.
Wow, that's kind of unexpected.
Right. Seems like a strange move, especially with his interest in renewable energy.
Yeah, you wouldn't think those two things would go together.
But maybe it's not as contradictory as it seems at first glance. Well, the article points out that Occidental is actually really big on carbon capture technology.
So they're trying to reduce emissions.
Yeah, it's like he's hedging his bets,
Yeah, investing in both sides of the energy equation.
Exactly. Traditional energy and the future of clean energy.
Makes sense when you consider how volatile oil prices are.
And Occidental, as a major oil producer, benefits directly from those high prices.
So it's kind of like a classic value play.
Right. You're betting on a company that's generating a lot of cash flow in a market that's favorable.
And just so everyone's clear, a value play basically means finding a company that the market currently undervalues. You're betting that eventually the market will recognize its true worth and the stock price will go up.
So it seems like Buffett sees value in Occidental, both in what they're doing now and their potential future, with this carbon capture technology.
It's like he's playing the long game.
Yeah, anticipating a shift in the energy landscape down the road.
And the article even hints that Occidental could be a target for acquisition by Berkshire Hathaway in the future.
Wow, that would be huge.
It would be a major move, considering the size of Buffett's stake and his track record of buying companies he believes in.
Yeah, it would really solidify his position in the energy sector.
Yeah.
But it also makes you wonder, what's his long-term vision for Berkshire Hathaway? Is he betting on a future where oil and carbon capture kind of coexist?
That's a great question. This Occidental play really throws a wrench in our typical understanding of Buffett's investment style.
It does.
Shows us that even the most seasoned investors can still surprise us.
And that there's always more to learn.
Always.
This whole thing also makes you think about those traditional categories of investors. Value versus growth.
Right.
Buffett seems to be blurring those lines,
Yeah.
showing that you can find value in unexpected places and adapt as the market changes.
This Occidental investment is a prime example of that adaptability. It's not just about oil production, it's about carbon capture strategic acquisitions and this long-term bet on the changing energy landscape.
It's a good reminder that we need to look beyond the surface, really understand the nuances of a company's business before we make any investment decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've covered 3 fascinating stocks from Warren Buffett's portfolio today, each one giving us a little glimpse into his investment approach.
Yeah, 3 very different companies with 3 very different stories.
Bank of America, with its potential for growth, Procter & Gamble, the steady dividend machine, and then this wild card, Occidental Petroleum.
And each one representing a different investment philosophy.
It's like choosing your own adventure in the world of investing.
Exactly. Do you want stability and dividends? Are you looking for undervalued companies with growth potential? Or are you drawn to companies that are adapting to a changing world, even if it means venturing into uncharted territory?
So many options. But before we wrap up our deep dive into Buffett's world, we want to leave you with one final thought. Imagine you had to build your own mini Buffett portfolio. Would you include all 3 of these stocks, Bank of America, P&G, and Occidental Petroleum?
It really makes you think, what kind of investor are you?
Are you looking for those quick gains, or are you in it for the long haul, trying to build wealth slowly and steadily?
And how do you feel about risk? Can you stomach those big swings in the market, or do you prefer a smoother ride?
And maybe the most important question is, are you willing to challenge your own ideas about where to find value?
Because Buffett shows us that you can find opportunities in unexpected places if you're willing to look.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that investing is rarely straightforward. There's a lot of gray area.
So much more than just picking stocks.
There's nuance, risk, and there's always more to learn. That's what makes it exciting.
Keeps you on your toes.
So as you continue on your investment journey, remember to stay curious, do your research, and never be afraid to ask questions.
Great advice.
Who knows, maybe you'll find your own hidden gem, a stock that would even impress Warren Buffett.
That's what we're all looking for, right?
Until next time, happy investing.
Happy investing, everyone.